Hello everybody, this is a bit late, I suppose. I was meant to actually make this video this morning, however, apparently Gamepedia is getting into a shortage of people, purely because a lot of people have a lot to do in real life. So because of that, the focus, like part of the interface I use when it comes down to showing legendary banner, like the character stats as well as the rate for summoning, that took until about an hour ago after I finished a 14-hour stream to actually get there. I don't know really how better to say this, but whatever. So essentially, I'm sorry I'm late. It was out of my control, but let's move on. We have a new legendary hero, being Ryoma this time around. So, let's see what he's like. Good old Ryoma, of course. I feel like he was... I don't mean to really bash on this guy, okay? I really don't, but... as you can see, he's extremely similar to his base version. And yeah, he does get access to guidance, flyer formation, and stuff like that. However, as a unit, I don't want to say he's bad. He's definitely not bad. He has a really good stat line. But I think that's the main thing he has really going for him, a good stat line. Now, what I mean by this is, in my opinion, I will straight up say this, I think base Ryoma is better. I'll explain why a bit later. So, he has a really good attack stat, well, or rather, really good speed stat, a pretty good attack stat even for this point of the game. His def is good, his res is kinda low, but I mean, it's a DC unit. Built-in DC unit don't tend to have a lot of res unless... oh boy, we're dragon! Woo! So that's not much of a concern. I think the main issue that's really problematic for him is he's a flyer. That actually does more harm than good, in my opinion, for him. Bushido is his own exclusive B slot. Cannot be inherited, by the way, for the two people that didn't know. It's an inferior Wrath, and the reason why I say inferior, even though it works at all time while Wrath doesn't, Wrath gives you that extra charge at the start of every turn, and believe me when I say this, that makes all the difference. So, let's do a bit of comparison, shall we? I fucking can't ever say this word right. So, Ryoma and Camilla here. I want to compare both Ryoma because I want to show just how little has changed. The new Ryoma essentially has 4 more speed. Def and res is essentially the same. In fact, base Ryoma is better at using DC at this point because he has a bit more res. Not by much, obviously, but... the thing that really makes base Ryoma better than this Ryoma when it comes down to it, though, are 2 particular skill. But not just that, the fact that the seal slot is not as cumbersome. I really feel like Bushido should have, if you're going to go for the plus 10 damage, it should have also had a second effect that would have basically been IoT Shield. The reason why I say this is we have Grima F with IoT Shield built in I believe, Bracing Stance 2. That's absolutely amazing, because the main issue that she has was actually just that, tanking arrows. Ryoma has all the issues here that Grima would have had if it wasn't for this A slot. What I mean by this is, yeah, it's true, he has really good stats, but let me put it this way. To be able to deal with bows with his distant counter weapon, because he has a distant counter weapon, right? So you want to be able to take distant counter hits. You have to use Iode's shield, otherwise Bo just completely shaft your ass. But at the same time, you kind of really need Distant Def 3 to be able to deal with mages. So when it comes down to it, the problem ends up being, if you go Iode's shield, mages will kill you, and if you go Distant Def 3, well, archers will kill you. Ryoma doesn't have that problem. He can just straight up run Distant Def 3 without fear of getting fucked by archers. And on top of that, I said earlier there's two more skills that Ryoma can use that the new Ryoma can't use. Those are Steady Breath and Wrath. Hi, Cat. So, to give you an example, if you go Steady Breath with Moonbow, okay, you get hit, Moonbow procs immediately. Alright? But since you got hit, you most likely are also on Wrath. So, it ends up being like a combo of like 16 damage. Well, not 16 damage. Like 16 to 20 damage, I should say. It's pretty good. And it actually gives more option for Ryoma. Like, there's other special, obviously, you can run. Aether procs pretty well with Steady Breath. Stuff like this. And the fact that Ryoma just gets a Wodao slapped on his B slot feels both uninspired and just like kind of shoved in. The one thing I will say though, while he really sucks at using his own weapon, he can really use other weapons. Fire Sweep, for example, is absolutely amazing on the guy because he has so much speed and his attack isn't bad either, so he can really abuse it. He can also use Slaying kinda well, but in my opinion Fire Sweep is by far his best kit. Now I've put Camilla here to compare the two at this point. Camilla's a bit easier to summon, or rather was a bit easier to summon, at least until we get the New Year rerun banner, which that's gonna take some time. So let me put it this way, if you have a speed plus Camilla, you have a bulkier Ryoma essentially. You lose one attack and one speed, and while that's important obviously, it's not nearly as much as a lot of people think. If you have speed plus res minus, you have the same res, you have 3 more def, you have 1 less speed, 1 less attack, and 1 less HP. There's really not that much difference at this point. So, yeah, the main problem Ryoma really gets is you really need to know basically what enemies you have so you can use the right seal accordingly, and if you have to deal with both, well, you have other units on your team, and you will have to use them. I'm not saying that this is completely awful, I'm just saying that because of this, it really makes you struggle, in the sense that you really would love to have a Reginto, right? But you can't really use it effectively, so you're stuck using a different weapon. And at the same time, there's another character I should definitely have had it, and that's Elincia. Elincia has the same attack, 3 less speed. I'm not going to bother with the bulk because that's not what she's about. She's about pure damage. If you have a speed plus Elincia, you basically have a Ryoma, except the thing is, I mean, that holds true until you have a speed plus Ryoma, which, I mean, good luck with that, that's fucking legendary banner. But if you have a speed plus Elincia, you already have essentially a Ryoma, and you can run Fire Sweep Sword the same way he does. Unless you have an attack plus Ryoma or a speed plus Ryoma, obviously, but you're counting on getting good IVs, and that's never good, especially on a legendary banner. Unless you really want to go all out, and that's more of a whale thing to do at this point. Like, I'm a dolphin, honestly, obviously, and I don't, like, I would not plus 10 a legendary unit, it's too expensive. Let alone try to fish for good IVs. I guess the other way around, but whatever. So, if you have a speed plus Camilla, don't bother. If you have a speed plus Elincia, again, don't bother. And at the same time, if you have a speed plus Elincia, I mean, you have already a melee. Even if you have attack plus Elincia, the fact that you always hit twice before the enemy has any chance of hitting back, the Wildfire Sweep can do the same thing. It's less consistent. It does a bit more damage though, so I guess there's that. So yeah, overall Ryoma is kind of disappointing. I think he's definitely not as disappointing as Legendary Lyn. Legendary Lyn is, I don't want to say garbage, but her kit works really against her, whereas here it's just the typing that's working against him. You can still use him. Like, I'm still going to use him, because I did pull him, actually. I pulled him in my first circle. For the first time in my life, a Legendary Banner did not treat me like utter garbage. That felt pretty fucking good. Plus, something that happened on stream today, but I think I'm going to just upload the highlight at one point, maybe tomorrow, because this was a 14-hour, 30-minute stream. It's almost 2 AM, and I'm actually almost dead. So, anyway, let's get on with this, obviously. This fucking thing. I had to wait a full day to be able to, you know, work on this. But, yeah, let's get over it. So you have the rates on the right. Just understand that if you really want Sigurd, wait for him to come back on a banner. He's going to have a 3% rate. As for Tiki, that's hard to say, actually. That's really hard to say. I would say you should wait for the refinement banner, but since that's 4 units, that might be bad. Plus, you'd probably be struggling against adult Tiki as well. And or they might not even put her there. They're just going to leave her on the legendary banner and call it a day, maybe. And yeah. Considering young Tiki had like next to no banner in so long. Ouch. So young Tiki is definitely worth pulling. Ryoma is... he's okay, just not amazing. Like I said, his weapon's good, it's just his weapon typing is really working against him right now. And like I said, if you have a base Ryoma, and if your base Ryoma is Speed Plus, and you're talking purely for Reginto, you literally have a better Supreme Samurai Ryoma. Unless you get like really lucky on IVs. So, yeah. Moving on to green, Guntra is still very solid to this day. Olwen is better than her, obviously, if you have a World of Thracia Olwen, by the way. She's by far better than Guntra, obviously, but if you don't have her, Guntra is pretty solid. And, well, to be honest, one of the more interesting legendary unit we've got so far, because god fucking damn it, is it all just freaking alts. I was hoping for Illiger this month, or Herd, HRD, I don't know how to pronounce this shit. And then next month to be Elbindi, since they actually introduce new OC characters, but apparently their idea of OC's characters are alright. You have an OC. We introduced new OC that are on your side. Let's not put it on a legendary banner. Like, why? Anyway, New Year Zero is also extremely good, purely because Own Flyer, even if you already have her, Own Flyer Fodder is extremely rare. And if not, well, you can still merge her. The fact that she's a dancer is definitely helpful as well. I'd say, like, there's 2 flying dancers, or flying singer, or both, really. They're the same thing, really. And she's the better of the 2, by far. I'm not saying that Ninian sucks, but Ninian has too much trouble getting the right kit going. Like, you don't want to kill an Inoka, let's be honest. You don't really have a really good weapon. I feel like, if anything, Ninian should have gotten a drive speed weapon. Okay? That's purely what I would have loved to see. Or a drive attack speed, which would have been like 2 in both. So, you know, if you're running own flyer, you can like stack the two together, but oh well. We've got what we've got. Crom, in my opinion, is still one of the best green unit of the game. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that if it's not about Mel Grima, I say he's about tied with LA Hector, actually. Because LA Hector needs some time to get ready to actually do shit. If he's not, like, if you don't hurt him enough when he's spec'd, it does not as much. And he can't run steady breath either. His res is abysmal also. Whereas, as you can see with Crom, 35 def and 29 res. Extremely bulky on both sides. And he also is tied. No, actually, no, he has more strength than Hector. Hector has 38 and 42 if attack plus. This guy is 40, 43 if attack plus. So, yeah. Moving on, Fjorm. Yes, I think I've already said enough about her. She's basically a balanced unit that really needs merges to really shine. So, move on. Summer Robin. Summer Robin is a pretty decent unit by himself, but he also has a really, really good skill for fodder, which is Brazen Attack Speed. Brazen Attack Speed is 7 attack and speed 180%, which is absolutely ridiculous. A lot of characters can really make use of this. For instance, I guess Eldigan could really make use of this. If you use the Double Fury set, I don't recommend it, but, well, Double Fury. You use Fury in his weapon, essentially. So that way, when he's at 80% or less, he has like 10 speed, 10 attack, 3 def, 3 res from his weapon, and a slot combined. It's actually pretty solid. You can actually make Eldigan break the 45 speed. I think he hit like 47 speed, at least mine. But mine is plus 10s. Take that with a grain of salt. Arden, Bullfighter, obviously, but also literally the best lance unit of the game. By far. Extremely bulky, and still has pretty decent attack as well. DC weapon, can run steady breath in tandem with Bullfighter. There's just so much Arden can do. If anything, I'd say Arden is the most dangerous armored unit because it's so much more annoying to deal with. Let me just put it this way, okay? Mel Grima. Well, that's cool, but there's so many reds. There's so many red units that can deal with the guy. He is the strongest green unit. There's no questions about it, but I mean, there's so many reds, and so many reds can deal with him. So it's like, eh. Whereas Harden is blue, which is like absolute cancer to red, which is the best color, honestly, overall. So you're down with like greens, which greens doesn't have that many options for high arena, unless you have like obviously merge a LA Hector, something like that, you know. So Arden, I'd say, is one of the most annoying unit to deal with in arena. It's just, for some reason, no one actually uses him. I really don't fucking understand. But oh well, moving on. Robin, Grima, same as Storm, balanced stats, needs merges to truly shine. Next, Takumi. Takumi is basically cooldown -1 fodder, which is great because obviously we could not have gotten Barb Shuriken in the pool. That would have been too cool. Yay, thanks IS. But no, it's a pretty good weapon, especially for any characters that really live off of, you know, offense. Like Kagero can use it pretty well. The new Kagero can use it pretty well. In fact, she uses it better than her base dagger, in my opinion. Though that can kind of depends. It's really up to the player. Who else can really use it? I guess Kaze could use it. There's plenty of units. Moving on, Ines. Ines used to be one of the strongest archer this game had when he was released, but nowadays he's kind of a shadow of his former self purely because dragons happened and the meta kind of shifted to DC units. It is quite saddening because I actually really like the guy. And I have a +3 of him. Wait, no, +4 actually. All of them were pity-fisted, by the way. That was a fun time, really fun time. But yeah, the fact that he has so little def and too much res just completely backfired after Dragons happened. So all in all, I'd say green is well, actually, blue is really good for fodder, or for Harden, obviously. Fjorm is really solid just to score higher in arena. Outside of this, green is kind of solid, purely because Christmas Chrome is really solid. New Era Zera is also definitely welcome in any flyer teams. Colorless is absolutely horrendous. In fact, I'd say just stay away from that color. Like, unless you really want to make a ninja good and you really need that cooldown -1 weapon, don't bother. Actually, I said Kagami Mochi was good on Kaze. He already has Kagami Mochi, just reskinned. Never mind. I completely forgot for some reason. But yeah, red is alright. I feel like you shouldn't summon on this unless you want Young Tiki, though. Or unless you really don't have a good DC unit yet and kind of want to use Ryoma still. I don't recommend it personally, but it's up to you. And I think that pretty much sums up the entire banner. If I'm being honest, though, I was planning on just completely passing it despite Ryoma being there. I just was lucky and got the only unit I was wanting from the banner, though, so yeah. I'd say, if anything, just try to avoid red and colorless, unless you really like Ryoma. Obviously, if you really like one of those characters, go ahead, obviously. But Sigurd is a really solid unit, by the way. Like, I'm pretty sure it sounds like I've not said good things about him. I just feel like he's going to come back on a 3-man banner, and it makes summoning on the legendary banner not worth it. Because you see there, that's 2.26%. You also have 4.52% of getting pity fisted, and that's not even counting the times where you're summoning and there's no red. So, yeah. Just, if you really like Sigurd, wait for him to get a 3-man banner or a 4-man banner or anything. Right now, it's not worth it. And with this, I'm going to call it a video because I need to rest my voice. I seriously do. So, alright. I'll see you guys later. And, yeah. Have good luck on your summons. I'm also going to leave my Discord in the description as usual. I keep forgetting to actually mention that. So, see ya!